Hello, welcome to the Everyone Active podcast. I am today your solo host, Joe, and I am going to welcome our wonderful guest, Rowell. Welcome. So Rowell is our contracts, communities, wellbeing and activities manager round the St Albans Decorum sites that we've got. So that's Hemel Hempstead, St Albans, Harpenden. We stretch you far.
Yeah, we cast a wide net, don't we?
We do. And I should just say, hello, little Michelle. She's poorly today, so she couldn't be here today. So I'm afraid you've got me. So let's intro you, Rowell. We today are going to be talking about the Olympics and sports in the Olympics, training for certain disciplines, and also how we support that journey from an Everyone Active perspective. So, mister, somebody used to play international sport?
Ooh, yeah, I did. Many moons ago. It was a hell of a ride, and we're here to talk about the ins and outs of that journey, and then probably lay some groundwork for other individuals who aspire to go to that level and then maybe a step further.
Great. So you were an international rugby sevens player for Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct is right.
Did you play at Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games?
Yeah, Commonwealth Games. Yeah, I've got my Commonwealth caps. That little feather in the hat. Unfortunately, we didn't quite qualify for the Olympic Games, but small island, 1.2 million people, and in that neck of the woods, we were competing against the regional Goliaths of Canada and the US for 2 spots.
Of course,
So it was almost, you're not going to get that spot, but we'll see how close you can get to it. So that was the story that we went down. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify for Rio 2016, but in the 10-year lead up to that, it was one heck of a ride and so much learning, met a lot of amazing friends across Olympic disciplines, I can proudly say that I have met athletes who I to this day still call friends who are sprinters, volleyball players. Oh my God, Honduran volleyball player. Oh, she was lovely. So like cyclists, etc. So it's great. Like the whole athlete community, when you start getting into like that multidisciplinary games environment, it is unreal. Like you make loads of friends for a lifetime.
Yeah, bet it is. Well, you've got so many countries and you've got the top, really, and you think about all the years of training and practice and everything behind it that then got you, A, to represent your country, and B, to now be in an international competition. What Commonwealth Games were you in?
We have Delhi and Scotland, so Glasgow, I should say Glasgow.
The Glasgow
The
Games.
Glaswegians.
And I also happen to know, because I will sit here and big you up, that you are also a strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
And an athlete development coach.
Yes, for all my sins, See? I am there.
So we are absolutely going to be tapping into Rowell's knowledge, Rowell's background, and we're going to be talking all things Olympics and sports. So I'm going to take you back. What is your first memory, or maybe first significant memory, of the Olympic Games?
I would have been wee lad, I would have still been in primary school. For those familiar with like growing up in the Caribbean, it's quite hot. Primary school is when you're in your short khaki shorts, Is when you go into secondary school, you get long trousers.
Okay.
So like I was still in short khakis, primary school. I remember the 1996 Atlanta Games, and we had our premier sprinter at the time, Atto Bolden. Mm-hmm. He was competing in those games. He landed bronze in that games, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just like a really big thing for that island because, we're a tiny island, 1.2 million people. We tend to do quite well in the sprint competitions, but still from a regional standpoint, we're competing against the Jamaicans. Whatever they're feeding them, whether it's yam, eddos, I don't know, something grows differently from the water higher up the island chain than where we are. But it was just like that moment of, wow, like this one person is carrying all our dreams and he's smashing it.
Oh, and I bet watching it from a school perspective as well, I bet it was really inspiring.
Oh, yeah,
was that one of the moments where you were like, okay, sport, or had you been sporty beforehand?
No, to be fair, I wasn't a really particularly sporty kid growing up,
No way.
No, it was like academics, and then like, I really loved the comic books and video games, etc. And like, my mom and my dad were very much academically inclined as well. So like, they didn't like force it on you, but you still had that, that pressure. Be like, you need to do well in school.
Yeah.
Sorry, mom. So I was particularly sporty as a kid. I think maybe as I was approaching into secondary school, that's when it really like sort of hit me and took off for me. And then from the viewpoint of like Olympic games and memories that really took hold of you, I remembered in about 2010 thereabouts, I started my journey in terms of being a national athlete, getting capped, etc. And I had a pretty nasty injury in the back end of 2011, coming into 2012. And I remembered looking at a documentary that led into the London 2012 Olympic Games.
I loved those games.
So it was,
obviously.
It was a documentary following the Trinidad and Tobago athletes, and I'm looking at this documentary. My legs in a massive brace. I couldn't bend it.
What were you competing in? What were you training in? How did you get that injury? What was the journey there?
I was playing in the North American and Caribbean Regional Sevens competition. So it's an annual competition, so rugby sevens. And from a kickoff, caught the ball. There was a giant of a man playing for Canada. His name is Adam Zaruba.
I'm just going to say now, Rowell is also 6'2".
6'1".
No,
6'2" with the hair up.
So when you're saying a giant of a man,
Adam Zaruba was probably about 6'4" and like the size of a industrial fridge.
Okay.
A man that size shouldn't move that quickly.
Right, a bit Jonah Lomu-esque.
He didn't have the gas of Jonah Lumo.
Okay.
I would challenge anyone to Google Adam Zaruba. He has this brilliant highlight of him taking a kickoff in stride with one hand, just grabbing it with the mitt and just running. I was like, why? Why is your hand that big? Anyhow, so took a kickoff. I'm seeing Adam Zaruba coming, and then I sort of turned my body this way. Adam went flying that way, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of the way. Good to go. And for some way, somehow, someone connected with Adam while he was still in the air, and his entire body sort of like swung and caught the outside of my leg, and that was it. Hamstring, MCL, PCL, all because of a rather sizable man flying through the air.
Whoa! Yeah, so that is knee brace, leg brace. That is a big injury, let alone the rehab behind that.
Yeah, the rehab behind it. But to be fair, at that point in time, we were all in a Central Olympic Committee program. We were all very well looked after, etc. So I would have went through a series of injections, experimental treatments, etc. that get you back as fast as possible. But I just remembered looking at that documentary and seeing our national athletes prepare for it. And I'm sat there in this brace and I'm like, you know what? I want that. And then shortly after rehabbing from that, the government of Trinidad and Tobago and our sport company, which is like it's a special purpose company. So it's the kind of private sector, public sector, sort of like Sport England, but somewhere around there. They decided that all Olympic and Commonwealth Games athletes would all train within the same facilities across the country.
Oh, wow.
So all of a sudden, the athletes who I was seeing prepare for the 2012 Games, like we were all training together.
Yeah,
we were all,
in the buzz.
Yeah, so it was good. It was great. You know, I'm seeing like some people who I was in awe of since I was in my teenage years and starting to get into sport. They're not walking around. They're not training with me. We're weightlifting together. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So 2012 and I guess 96, those were two Olympic Games that really stood out for me for different reasons.
I know. I don't know if you know this. I was a torchbearer for the 2012 Games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
chosen to carry the Olympic flame. And I actually did it, get this link that's coming up, at the Hertfordshire Youth Sport Games. And the Hertfordshire Youth Sport Games, we are now involved with from an Everyone Active point of view.
Yeah, title sponsor. And we also engage from the viewpoint of bringing our sporting champions to be mentors for the young athletes. So we have sporting champions across the entire scope of the athletic development, spectrum.
Yeah.
So we have those just starting off, we have those just hitting, the regional competitions, those on the cusp of national competitions, and we have some Olympic athletes as well.
We had one of my athletic heroes in, Colin Jackson was in, few episodes ago, but if anybody wants a little bit of inspiration, apart from obviously listening to our lovely Rowell, Colin's episode, because he's now coaching our sporting champions and he's also coaching within Team GB, and just his headspace and his knowledge just makes me think that must have been the same feeling that you had when you joined the Olympian and Commonwealth squad. And with the youth games, the link. So these are Hertfordshire school children.
Yes.
How old are they?
We range from, I believe, 5 all the way up to about 14 or 15. It's quite a wide remit in terms of the kids at the games and the schools represented.
And they all get together and basically have a mini athletics meet.
Mini athletics meet, opportunity for them to, sing, dance, several different activities. It was so varied. There was like drumming, there was street dance, it was Junior Olympic Games. There were like some of the, the random schoolyard games you'd have as well. You know, we have a product that we call Rowell, which basically is mixed match of all these games you grew up playing as a kid, and we had the kids doing a round robin of Rabble, etc.
Wow.
I think there was even circus skills available as well. So we try to make sure it's as varied as possible and as engaging as possible for the kids.
And that's a massive key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's spend a little time talking about this. The engagement of linking children to a sport and then seeing their potential, and as adults and coaches, we're probably going to see that little tip before maybe a child does. And I know that you're an athletic development coach. I also know your daughter is a sprinter.
Yeah.
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 So from a school's perspective, a parent's perspective, a coach's perspective, what is that point where you see the skill is it a mindset in the child? Like, how do you know what? You've got the potential. And then how do we dig into that to then develop them?
I think it's a different part for everyone, and it's probably a different approach for parents versus coaches as well. I think as a parent, you need to give that child the opportunity to be as varied and try as many different things as possible. From the viewpoint of a coach, if you have that background, I very firmly lean towards the lifetime athlete development model. Okay, so with respect to that, if you apply it to, let's say, the American sports culture, you have kids specializing at a very young age in America, which is not necessarily a good thing. You end up with a lot of broken bodies.
Yes.
You would have a kid who is 10 years old and he suddenly is a specialist fast pitcher in baseball and he has dislocated his elbow by 12 years old.
Yeah, shoulders.
Whereas when you approach Canada, significantly smaller population, not much different to Trinidad in terms of having a small population. Yeah. We have that approach whereby you want children to be as varied as possible. We don't want them to specialize. So they get into that period of specialization when they come into their early teens, sometimes mid-teens. But overall, you want that have that strong foundation in balance, strength, proprioceptive ability, all of those things. So you develop that by being as varied as possible. Just be a kid.
Yeah, and that is so important. And I really like to stress that as well, is because our children are developing. They're developing, they're growing at different rates. Their skeletals, their musculars, their hearts, their lungs. If we force them into one route, you're going to overtrain. And as you said, people are going to get injured, people are going to get hurt. Yeah. If we let children be children and also discover a love of sport, which might not be what you initially think is, then you're going to see that little spark click. Yeah. And it's when the spark clicks that's when you've then got the chance to nurture a little bit more.
And also, let's be honest, when we look at the top, the cream of the crop, you've recognized across the entire sporting landscape, athletes are generally getting bigger, taller, faster. And that has to do, obviously, with, better nutrition, better training methodologies, etc., but also better target identification, like talent identification. Also, I think within the last 20 to 25 years, in many sports, you have moved away from the thought process of, I don't want a tall athlete, or tall kids aren't ostracized, in the old days, you're talking probably in the 80s, maybe the back end of the early 90s as well, you would have a kid who would hit a growth spurt and then become sort of uncoordinated, gangly, and, he's left to the side because coach doesn't recognize that kid, if you give him the time to grow, adjust to the significantly different body, that kid is going to get right back up to where they once were. And then all of a sudden you have a kid who, let's say, for example, in football, was a very technical player, little maestro. He's now suddenly a taller maestro. So that kid might not be, your typical or atypical midfielder or striker anymore, but he might be a great defensive midfielder, or he might actually be a very talented tall striker. But you need to give that child the opportunity to adjust to that new body because it's rapid growth in a short space of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we also, I'm still going to stay on the child point of view, we didn't have it when we were growing up. But I feel as a responsible adult, auntie, parent, there's so much pressure from social media, from other sporting magazines, from each other's peers, that it is important for us as adults, but also especially coaches, that we kind of shield them a little bit from that and still allow them to be children. Because as you said, if they're specialising in one and then they get their growth spurt, that they might feel like they're not part of it anymore, and then they're getting pressures from outside. But we've got the experience of life to be able to go, do you know what? Stick with, how's about thinking about this?
Yeah. I say let kids be kids.
Yeah, that's nice.
Give them hands down, and it's not even debatable. The fastest human being that ever lived is Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Looking at Usain Bolt, if he wasn't given the opportunity to adjust during that, that gangly period, we wouldn't have had the gift that we've had for the last, 12 years.
I get covered in goose pimples when you speak about him, because I think he is an utter legend, and just watching what he achieved, where he came from, how he changed the sport. And now we've got specific sprint meets, don't we? So we've taken the sprinters out because there's such love and passion and understanding for that they've now got their own games creating from that.
So yeah, and like having met him on a number of occasions, having trained with him,
It's crazy. What? Sorry, you've met who?
Yeah, Usain Bolt.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's the island connection. And to be fair, one of my really good friends, Richard Thompson, he, for many years, was the premier sprinter for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yep.
In the London 2012 games, that was, Usain Bolt's debut. Well, not his debut, but his, because he would have debuted in Beijing. But
yeah.
London 2012 had something special about it, that was just massive in terms of the games. And when he won that world record 100-meter final, everyone and all eyes were on him.
Yeah.
But the guy who came second was Richard Thompson. So, yeah, Richard is a bit of a folk hero back home, really, really lovely guy, So because of that link with Richard, a lot of us would have been fortunate enough whenever he invited Usain down to, party with Usain, be out and about, He does love a party, but that's the island in all of us. You love a party. Our carnival is not one to be beat. It's not one to be beat. So, you're partying, and it's like, oh, you're partying with, like, Usain Bolt. I was like, it's Usain. It's like,
just my casual friend. Wow. But game changer, like, absolutely. If we could pick one figure, absolutely changed.
Definitely. I think over the years, when you look at how different disciplines within athletics have changed significantly, and they always will be game changers. Michael Johnson was a game changer for the 200 meter and 400 meter. And even him, looking at him, biomechanically, the way he ran, like, it was unhuman. It made no sense.
So his upright stance, and I actually remember being young and everybody was commenting on how can he run that fast with an upright stance, because I guess traditionally would have been a lot more relaxed.
You wanted that forward lean, and then obviously when he came out of the dry phase, you'd get tall, but he just seemed to be tall and glide. It was a very peculiar running style, but it worked for him biomechanically, Similar to Usain Bolt, everything about Usain, he's too tall, he would never be a 100-meter athlete. He's too slow out the blocks. The medals speak for themselves. The dominance speaks for itself, So
absolutely. We're going to stay on the little sprinter theme.
Okay.
Yay. And I'm going to tap into your strength and conditioning head, and also know for a fact that you were a sprinter in your rugby.
You know what? I to be honest with you, like I got into athletics because of rugby. So I had, when I went to uni, I met someone by the name of Orlando Griffith. He was a collegiate athlete. He went to the US, a collegiate athlete. His sort of experience would have been against the likes of Maurice Green, who would have been a great US sprinter. I think Orlando also has like a couple of Nike adverts. So it was nice that your coach had this link to Nike. So he'd be like, can I get some kit? Can I get some kit? And I'd be like, yeah,
Other kit available.
Yeah. So it was my introduction to him in uni, where I started to be taught the correct running mechanics, etc. I honestly wish that I had gotten into athletics a lot earlier, because then I would have been able to reap the rewards from it and would have been a more efficient runner. But that was my first foray into athletics, and it was in university, to be fair with you.
Is that one of the reasons why you became the role that you are? Because you wish that maybe that knowledge had been implanted earlier?
Yeah, to be fair, like, if I'm honest, I've always been fascinated by fast people and what makes them fast. Like, it's fascinating because, like, you could look across the scope of individuals who, as we'd say in rugby, he's got gas, but no one looks the exact same. You know, even from the viewpoint of running styles, you have some persons, when you see them running, you could tell, oh, athletically trained. And you have some people just look at them and they're naturally fast. You know, one of the best takeaways I've had was from an American sprint coach by the name of Vern Gambetta. So Vern would have been responsible for a lot of Olympic level US athletes as well as collegiate athletes, and he would have been at one point in time involved with the Oregon Ducks. If you follow collegiate football, like, they have the coolest kit ever. Like, it's green, you know, big gold, like O next to it. Like, they are quite famous football team, and they have been for years known for having some of the fastest footballers coming out of their program.
And when you're talking football,
we're talking about American football. American football, I should say, American football. So one of the things I took away from him is that he said, everyone can be fast. It's just about how fast I can get you. Speed can be trained, and at bare minimum, I can get any individual 10% faster. Now, 10% could be the difference between getting to a ball before it goes over the line, or getting back to the defender before that defender is in a position to score, pass, etc. So 10% is a massive gap. And if he has bet the house on his ability to do that, and looking at his, you know, his resume, his CV, he has been very good at doing that. So anybody can be fast, but it's just about how fast we can get you. That makes sense.
I'm going to tap in again, though. Yeah. Because we do have, let's face it, we have a lot of full range athletes that come through Everyone Active Centre doors. And we do have a lot of runners, and we do have a lot of sprinters. Top 3 tips for the development of adding speed.
Get fit. Oh, let's go back to take it back. Okay. Get strong, get fit, get fast.
Strong,
fit, fast.
Fit, fast. How we're judging our strength by what we can lift, what we're doing in the gym, our strength program. Fit. How are we going to benchmark fit?
We're talking about your overall aerobic capacity. Now, yes, sprinting is very much in the anaerobic zone, so aerobic with oxygen, anaerobic without oxygen. But then somewhere in the middle, dependent on if you are, let's say, a multi-directional contact sport athlete, etc., or an intermittent athlete, you find your space in the middle, that metabolic zone. But both zones complement that little space in the middle. So you need to increase your overall aerobic capacity, and that's, in fact, is going to allow you the ability to be able to, one, recover quicker, and also be able to allow you the ability to be more efficient in the anaerobic zone as well. So it's about making sure that you look after the athlete or the individual holistically.
Nice. Yeah. And from the aerobic perspective, like I've always said to anybody that I've been PT and coaching, that it's also really good to concentrate on disciplines that aren't your number one. So if I had a runner, I'd be getting them on bikes.
Yeah. Well, it's about
transitions.
So it's about understanding where that athlete is, and you know, everyone is an athlete. Okay, then you have a body, therefore you're an athlete. Favorite quote? I did not quote it. I actually saw it in on the wall in Nike Town, Glasgow.
Other brands are available. Other brands are available.
Apologies. Like, I have my preference. I'm not in it right now, but I do have a preference. So sorry if I'm giving them free marketing. I'll take it back. But yeah, so like I absolutely love that quote. You know,
what is the quote?
So the quote is, do you have a body? Therefore, you're an athlete. You have a body, therefore, you're an athlete. So from the viewpoint of athletes who are competing, etc., you need to understand where that athlete, one, is in their overall development, where they are in terms of their season, where we are in terms of preparation for competition. So it's all about timing. Okay, then it's all about making sure that you have done your overall training program in a way to peak that athlete for when they need to perform.
And there is such a fine line from that level that you're talking about, and that's where strength and conditioning coaches come into their own. strength and conditioning is an additional qualification that you need to specialise in, is because it's like walking up a mountain and you get to that summit. That summit is where you want your athlete to be for their meet. But there is literally the opposite side is back down that mountain. And if you push them too far and they're not peaking, they're going to be injured when they're going into their games. And it's that's the knowledge, and that's why the speciality of strength and conditioning is coming out.
And then beyond that speciality, we start getting into the realms of sports science. You need a team when we're talking about competing at that level. I recall when I was going through that period, we had our S&C, we had a nutritionist, we had a sports scientist. When we were traveling, we had someone who would travel with us. Her role was an athletic trainer. So an athletic trainer is someone who is just significantly above your average physiotherapist or masseuse. She has those skill sets in the back, but then she also has the skill sets around sports science. She also has the skill sets around nutrition. So that was like a permanent staff member. And I could recall like going on long haul flights. And we're talking about sometimes, when I say long haul, we're flying from the Caribbean, you're flying to Hong Kong, you're flying to Las Vegas, you're crossing at least 2 different time zones, more times than not. And she would literally have each athlete, and more times than not when we were traveling, the full contingent was 12 to 15 athletes, because it's a 7s team. 12 would be, actually on the active playing, and you had 3 traveling reserves if you were lucky at that point in time, or you'd be going with 12 men and hoping for the best, but it's about budgeting, etc. Anyhow, Kemba, she's now Dr. Kemba Noel. Yeah, she's going on. She's wrote extensively. She is one bright cookie. Anyhow, we're going about 10 years ago.
Can we say her name again? Because people might want to look into it.
Kemba Noel London. So double barrel Noel London.
Mm-hmm.
Kemba would literally have us on a schedule where, bless her, she wouldn't sleep. She would come and tap 2 athletes, walk to the back of the plane. And you had your set exercises to do when you're on a long haul flight, because she was looking after everything you were doing, not just your sleep in the build up to traveling, what your diet was like in the build up to traveling. She also needed to make sure that whilst traveling, you would have been in the best position to land and adapt as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because time zones, you need to get your body absolutely onto where you're going.
More times than not, you would land dependent on the nature of the competition and have less than 3 days to acclimatize. So it had to be a process.
That's amazing. I'm going to tap into your knowledge again, because you often hear it when people are talking about, specifically from track and field point of view, so our long distance athletes, but also potentially our sprinters, train at altitude. Ooh. Is that a? Can we tap into the whys behind it?
I'm probably not the best placed person to take that one on, purely because my experience at training at altitude and also playing at altitude is very limited. Mm-hmm. However, I will say it is horrible.
So you've also got the knowledge of, though, your knowledge of like the human body and the heart and the way our blood is pumping through is there. So you're kind of depriving your body a little bit of oxygen.
Sometimes dependent on your emotional state, how long the competition goes on for. It's a little or a lot. So I'm going to paint a picture for you. 2014, we were preparing for the NACRA Sevens competition that was hosted in Mexico City. Mexico City. In the 3-month build up to those games, I don't know if you guys are going to remember back then where they had all the rage was the mask, the sort of reducing mask. And you had like these holes, and it did nothing for high altitude. All it did was restrict your breathing. It had no way to mirror it, but yet still be trained with it. We got to Mexico City, we had opportunity to acclimatize, etc. It's a 2-day tournament. Day 1.
So do you remember how far above sea level Mexico City is?
Oh no, that's one for Google. So like anyone who could pop it in the comments from a quick Google, we'll have that, please.
There we go. Feedback team. But it's not sea level. Let's put it like that.
Significantly higher than it's significantly higher than sea level. For those who follow football, okay, are we talking about soccer? Football. Mexico has the Mexican national team has an impressive record when playing at home in Mexico City. Most teams don't want to play in Mexico City because it is horrible. My experience playing there would have been a 2-day tournament. Day 1, absolute breeze. It was the group stages. We were dominant. We were having a time of our lives, Day 2, when you started to get into knockout rugby, we had 2 back-to-back very, very difficult games. And I could recall out of the 12 athletes we had fielded on that day, 9 needed oxygen at the end of the game.
Oh, 9.
Myself included. So,
whoa.
yeah, it does take its toll on you.
Absolutely, because when you're really breathing, your heart's pumping, your muscles are going, you need the oxygen level that you're used to in your blood flow. Whoa. So that is it's
a tough one. So I can tell you definitely there is merits to training at it, having competed in it and trying to replicate it. There is no replicating that. You have to be in the atmosphere. You have to be in the environment to get it done.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to talk to you now very briefly about what we as Everyone Active can offer the community, can offer children getting into sport in terms of like Olympic themed sports. So I know that we've got athletic running tracks.
Yes.
In a lot of our centres.
Yeah, a lot across the country, across the group. You know, I jokingly say that Everyone Active is slowly turning the country red. Okay, then slowly turning the country red. For those who have been following for the entire time we've been speaking, as I said, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. My national colours are red, white, and black.
There we go.
Okay, so I can say
Everyone Active colours are?
They're red, white, and black.
It's fate.
I look pretty good. I look pretty good in them colours, if I'm honest with you.
Yes.
We're going to take it to social studies. Okay, red represents the fire and the passion of our people. White represents the purity of our waters, and black represents the richness of the soil and the earth. So yeah, red, white, and black. Love them colours.
So you heard it here first, the passion behind those colours. Yeah. But Everyone Active brings communities, members, all ages together. I know for a fact that we've got athletic tracks over England.
Yeah, all over.
We've got what other Olympic related? Obviously the swimming.
Swimming, yeah. Aquatic Centre in London, we've acquired that. So massive space that is purpose-built and specific with a long history in terms of the Olympics. So we're back to 2012 again. So London, what an Olympic Games it was. We also engaged in tennis, golf. Okay, so we're trying as best as possible to make sure that every centre is utilised to its full capacity in terms of being able to develop sport, not just the elite level, but the grassroots level as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's not forget powerlifting as well. You know? And we do have a junior powerlifting athlete on staff who is preparing for the Commonwealth powerlifting Games in South Africa later this year. So
massive shout out to Isaac. Hi Isaac. Yeah, he's one of the personal trainers that work here at Westminster Lodge. And I'm going to say, it's got a little crowdfunding page if anybody wants to support an up-and-coming athlete.
Support him.
Powerlifter, get him out to the Commonwealth Games. How amazing would that be?
Yep, I'm going to have my little bias here. Let's not forget Rugby Sevens. We do have quite a few rugby athletes who come through the doors of our leisure centres as well. I would like to thank the general manager at this site who very, very graciously opened her doors to a Rugby Sevens team all in their preparation for the Sevens season last summer. So she opened the doors. I coached that team. You know, we had a conversation. She's like, I'm happy to have your team in as long as they're quiet, they make sure they're not disruptive, and they get some pictures and social media posts out of it. And we provided. So it was a lovely relationship. And the guys absolutely enjoyed the use of the facility, from the weightlifting room to the swimming pool to the track just across. Like literally, it was that scope afforded us the ability to put on some really, really useful training camps. So.
Amazing. I think that's I might be slightly biased, but I think that's one of the great things about Everyone Active is from the community level, each centre is going to be slightly different because of their link to that community, the need for sport, the need for schools to become involved. So anybody listening to this that knows that they've got a budding sporting athlete, or there's a school that just maybe need assistance with helping them with their tennis coaching, go into the nearest Everyone Active centre, probably ask for Communities and Wellbeing Activities Manager, and you're going to know the links between centres, the links to help them train and progress.
So I think if we're leading back to the whole outlook of sport in the UK on the direction of travel, particularly coming out of COVID, the idea of a leisure centre, it's more about creating opportunities for active well-being. Now, if you have sports people or young children involved in sport, they're already within that space of being active and having that active well-being slant. But think about how we can then include mom, include a grandparent, make sure that it's a whole family affair. So we want to create that atmosphere where everyone feels welcomed within our centers. Tagline, everyone, here we are. So there's a space there for everyone within the leisure centers. And then also it's about making sure that we are not just as inclusive as possible, but offer as wide a range of activities as possible. So yes, we want to get to the top of the pyramid, but ultimately, the wider the base is the more opportunities to tap into talent. And that is the whole concept of elite athlete development. There has to be strong foundations at the grassroots. And then you travel upwards.
Oh, there you go, you budding athletes. And as we started this podcast, you and I both spoke about like childhood memories of the Olympics. Did you know that we are, opening up the London Aquatic Centre to be an official fan zone viewing for the Paris Olympics this summer?
Ooh, well, now I know. I didn't know. Now I know. And I think there's a space for the conversation around the power of creating opportunities for individuals to see, and then also looking at Team GB. Now, this is me putting on my EDIB hat, equality, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. There's definitely a space for someone being able to see themselves and aspiring for a lot more. And then when we look at Team GB is very much representative of the entire British population. So there's a space for everyone within there. And I think that is going to be massively powerful for kids across the entire garden and the entire scope, to see someone, to have this space, be in this massive building with a lot of history and seeing, oh my God, like, I want to do that one day. And I think that is so powerful.
I wholeheartedly and utterly agree with you with that. I get goose pimple moments. I'm just like, there will be that young little girl, that young little boy sitting there going, you look like me, I can do this. You are like me, you like that same sport, I can do this. And also, there's going to be, at the Aquatic Centre, there will be taster sessions of various sporting discipline for families to try. What greater... can you imagine if we're sitting here 10 years from now and there's been our 15, 16, 17-year-old sporting champion going, I was sitting at the London Aquatic Centre and I decided I wanted to sprint like that. That'd be a pretty cool story.
It would be indeed. We've seen it. It happens time and time again. And I think you get a lot more of those stories now in the era of social media, you know.
Yes.
You look at some stars in the Premiership, you have footballers who'd be like, I was in the stands when such and such scored that goal, you know. It's crazy to think that 10, 15 years ago, the kids who were like, I saw when Wayne Rooney did this. And now I'm playing. And I'd be like, you're too young to shut up. Making me feel old.
We're going to round this up soon, I know, but I just have to tell you this because you will burst out laughing. So in our office over at Harpenden, I was sitting there the other day and we're talking about the Euros.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the Holland-England game. Obviously, we know how that one finished. Whoop, whoop. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, anybody remember Euro 96? And the two lads that were in the office turned around to me and went, I wasn't born then. And I was like, oh, okay, well... It was the euphoria of the country at the time. But it's just one of those, I was like, oh, okay, there it is.
You know what, they're lovely, Gen Zers, they're lovely. I got a lot of time for them. But me being like a slightly older millennial, my joints, etc., there's a bit of wear and tear on them. They do get me down sometimes. They'd be like, how old are you, mate? I'd be like, how old are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm 22. I'd be like, still got that new car smell. Look at you. So, yes.
But our experience can lead to their greatness.
Oh, definitely. I think when you look at the sport, like the sporting platform, even getting all the way up to the elite level, we have so many athletes who are getting to that point of excellence significantly quicker. You have younger and younger athletes. Back in the day, we would have had like a 22-year-old kid who was like, oh my God, who's this young uprising star? Who's this phenom? Now the age is just going down. We have 20-year-old phenom, 90-year-old phenom, 18-year-old phenom,
Yeah. And that also, though, relates back to the bigger your foundation, the stronger that peak is going to be. And if we have got a stronger foundation of athletes giving back, of coaches joining the party, of development from that younger age, then it's brilliant that the peak can also be a greater, stronger
Definitely.
representation of their countries.
Definitely. And like, taking it away from elite level athletes, etc., just taking it back to, the community and persons who just want to be a bit fitter. We've also seen a massive shift in, the gym culture. Like when I was a teenager, there wasn't anything called junior gym. We got 11-year-olds in the gym lifting and shifting now. When I was 11 years old, I was like happy enough, like on my Nintendo 64, reading comic books, having like a massive bowl of cereal. Like, what are you talking about? The gym? I go for a walk. Yeah, now we got kids who are like, they're on it, and like I would say it's not detracting from their childhood. It's complementing it.
Yes.
We have 11-year-old kids who are like, I'm a cricketer, but like I need to get a bit stronger. So like, this is why I'm here.
I literally, and I know you could as well, sit here and talk athletes, futures, Commonwealth, Olympics, rugby, sport. What a summer of sport we're having this year. All day long. But we can't, because we've got to round it off. But Rowell, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And team, if you liked the episode, please leave us a lovely 5 stars. All of those in your motherland of Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for tuning in and listening and giving us a little international tick. Yay! But team, as always, if you've got any questions from an athlete development point of view, from a strength and conditioning point of view, from our outreach into communities, please email us on podcast@everyoneactive.com and I will pass them over to Rowell and he will be able to answer with expert knowledge. And as always, thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been great. The whole team involved in putting this on, you guys are brilliant. So we can't thank you enough for the quality work you're doing. And we're tapping into, this is where we are right now. This is the future in terms of podcasts, getting that direct engagement, etc. Having the comments open. We need to be on trend with everything else that we do. We follow best practice in every other aspect of the business. Why not from the viewpoint of media as well?
Yes. Oh, there we go. I didn't even have to say that. Thank you, lovely. That was really kind. All right, team, take care and we will see you again very soon. Bye.